Sagar, good to have you join us as well. Excellent. I know you might be joining from work, so you might not be able to actively participate, but do jump in if you have questions. Some of this is kind of foreshadowing the direction that you'll end up going, so it might be a bit advanced, but we'll cover a stage that you'll come to. So it's good to get this knowledge and help troubleshoot. Hi, Jorge. Glad to have you join. And I just want to dive in, Iriam. One of the first diagnostic tools I just want to spot check is to go through and look at your Prisma diagram together. Some of you, if you don't know what Prisma is, don't worry. This will become clear to you in time. But yeah, I want to pull up Prisma and just look at kind of how that inclusion flow is going and where you're coming to in terms of steps of the extraction and analysis, which is, I believe, where you are now. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll walk just very quickly, Iriri, walk us through where you are in the analysis now.
Yes. So I'm here down at the gray box, which doesn't actually exist in the Prisma. I added it because it's like an intermediate step where I am. But yes, so I've gone through the identification, which looking at three databases, and then again remove the duplicates and also like any automated removals that I could do through Zotero. I went through. And then after that, it reduced the number to 2,482. And then I had to do some other sort of checks that maybe the automation didn't get. So for example, more duplicates, some that are not relevant, others that were not in English that I actually filtered on the databases search that they should be in English, but three of them still got through. So so yeah, after, and then down to the middle of the screening, so the reports out for the retrieval after the ones that were not relevant. So yeah, let me go back a step here, like higher. So I screened first by title and abstract. So the 2,482, that was by title and abstract. And I mean, I have to say it might be sort of frustrating at first, but you get faster at it because you just learn how to do it. And then you can spot it quickly as you go. So anyway, after this, the main thing to get out was the not relevant and not the study. So the ones that I actually had to retrieve in order to look at the text were 466, and then there were none that I did not retrieve. And then, so this is the 466 are the ones that I have to assess, like go through the text and see which ones are eligible. And here are the three main reasons why I excluded them. The first one was that it was a review. Second reason was it was not a study, so some sort of other. I could not see this from the title and abstract. I had to actually download it to see it. And then the third reason, which is also like a big chunk, and I think is the most difficult, is like I had to see which ones were not COVID related. So no, not a COVID related health outcome. So they might have looked at pollution on some other health outcome, but not COVID related. And then, or no air pollution measure. They mentioned air pollution, but they didn't actually measure it. And finally, the no air pollution to health link, or purely descriptive studies. This was sort of an implicit thing I did, but there's some descriptive studies that look at, they show you what like air pollution, they show you also like COVID health outcomes, but they don't actually make a link to it in a quantitative way. So I call these sort of descriptive studies, or some that don't actually like run at the basic point, some sort of correlation.
Got it. That looks really good so far. I would ideally see reason 3 unpacked between which were descriptive studies, because that's this type of a study method that's missing, where there's a problem with the exposure or outcome variable. So if you are able to unpack that would be better, but this is also good enough for
I can, but and then some of them are like overlap so maybe I'll do at least I'll unpack them in some way that it's like somebody can follow. But
that can commonly happen, that they might have multiple, they might fall into multiple reasons for exclusion. So that's also okay. And then you would just note that the numbers don't add up because studies are excluded for multiple reasons. So that can also be okay. Okay, but keep going here. So now you have 32 you're unsure about, and you've broken the. It looks like you've come and you've started to look at the geographic distribution of the studies. Uh,
Yes. Mhm.
okay, so that looks good. So you've got looks like 109 in North America and Europe. That's a manageable set for the systematic review. That's looking
Yes.
pretty
So,
good.
mhm. And yeah, that's where I am, because I need in order to get to the next step, I need to decide on whether I'm gonna do some geographical restriction or some outcome restriction or some yeah, air pollution restriction. And I think what's gonna drive this is like me looking at what already exists, because this is a
Mm,
pretty crowded area.
yeah.
So I know there's already 3 published like reviews, and then they look at separate things too. And then I know there's I looked at Prospero, and there's already some that are registered there that also do some sort of related study. So I think what I need to do next is to define the scope, but none of them like look at just North America and Europe. So that might be already like a feasible restriction.
I think that would be a helpful restriction in that case. I guess one of the tensions or questions to ask yourself is, do you want to do, say, one outcome measure like NO2 or PM 2.5 and do a meta-analysis of it? Or do you want to cast a wider net? I would think that the majority of studies look at PM 2.5, but what you'll know more what's coming out now. What are the majority of studies looking at?
Yeah, I think for sure PM 2.5 and PM 10, because those are the most available measures. And I think what I'm thinking about also in terms of like doing a meta study is that they use very different methodologies. Like some of them look also just like at short-term exposure, so like exposure during COVID, and some of them
Mm,
look at like historic exposure. And then they use like various different methods. So for me, it's still not clear how I would do a meta-analysis, because of just it's a different treatment, I would say, or a different
yeah,
method. So,
it does sound
but
like that there's a lot of heterogeneity because the reference period. So are they looking at just in a lockdown period, and then which time period historically are they comparing to? So because that denominator differs, it would make it very hard to do a meta-analysis. Hi Mohammed, good to have you join. So I can see that point there. I think the meta-analysis could be quite challenging to do. The other thing is, tell me about another filter. So you can apply restrictions for geography, for different outcomes like we talked about. Another is the strength of the study. Are you seeing some differences in terms of particularly strong, convincing studies that you find well designed? For example, if you restrict to a longitudinal or cohort or studies that take into account the temporal dimension, what does that begin to look like?
yeah, and in terms of methods, I would say most of them are either just like univariate correlation, so like Pearson correlation, so just not even controlling for anything. And then the second step is like multilinear or multivariable regressions. So
Yeah.
just sort of, and then like the bulk of them are ecologic studies, so comparing one geographical area to another. There's a few that are like they use individual level data from some sort of like cohorts that they are followed already.
Okay.
But in terms of that, I don't know if there's like the most robust would be like the quasi experimental ones, but there's like it's only like 2 or 3% that use those sort of like that methodology. That would be like more of a robust and causal methods, but
Okay. So those would be exactly. So you've got a few quasi-experimental. You've got a few with individual level data. I think that would be quite strong. Because one of the issues on COVID, if you start looking at the ecological level, is the lag time from the exposure to the outcome. That still could be interesting. Are you seeing in the existing studies? What we're searching for here is the highest value that this study from its framing could produce against what's out there, and kind of lining that up with what's going to be the most feasible for you to do, because your very next step from here is to go register with Prospero.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
these are important decisions.
Yeah, I have a list of the studies and sort of what they look like. I didn't get to send it to you, but I would say that yeah, something like the ones that already exist. One of them focuses just on like spread and just looking at PM 2.5 and not the other pollutants. And then one of them focuses on just severity and mortality.
Okay.
So I think it would be helpful for me to, I don't know, make some sort of list of like where the gap and send that to you. But I think as of now, I know for sure there's no restriction on like short term versus long term. So most of the ones that exist put both of those together. So long term in terms of looking at chronic exposure before COVID. So for at least 1 year. So from like 2016 to 2019 or even longer, because so that and the distinction has to be made because like maybe air pollution hits like impacts you because you've already had damaged lungs because you have chronic exposure to air pollution. And then these are different from like the short-term exposure, because short-term exposure is more of like an acute, and then maybe you may or may not have damaged lungs, but if you have COVID, maybe it makes your lungs weaker and you react to it in a different way than you would had there not. So I think potentially this might be another interesting like restriction to make, or just a differentiation to make.
So let me ask you just one other thing. Is there any sign in the literature so far of the different pollutants that some seem to have bigger or smaller effects on COVID risks?
As of now, I haven't been able to look at that I have to go through once I like extract the data, I have to go and see, although like from the COVID studies, but before COVID, PM and PM 2.5 are the pollutants that are supposed to be more cause more damage to the lungs.
More than more than specific pollutants like not NO2 or ozone or some of the many others that you could look at.
Yes.
So, okay. And in the literature so far, is that what's showing up also? PM 2.5 is showing some of the most harms?
I
mean, would you say just kind of your initial look, are these studies quite mixed? Are there a lot reporting no effect? Are the well-designed studies reporting effects? Are you getting any sense already now, just looking at it?
Yes, yeah, for sure. The ones that do more controls, and most of them and the bulk of the studies are showing, I would say, positive effects of PM 2.5 and PM 10. And then I have to look at like compared to other pollutants, because not all of them look at like all of them at the same time. It's only a few that I would say look at like PM 2.5, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and more than that.
So I am leaning towards, it sounds like it would be relevant to look at the outcomes for the different pollutants. I do think that would be worth doing here. My sense would be to restrict to Europe and North America, just because within there's a lot of variation inside of them that you can take advantage of. That's where a lot of policy discussion is at the moment, and it keeps your numbers manageable. That's not to say that it's not relevant to look in China and India, but just in terms of publishing and strategy, Europe and North America, I think, is going to have the bigger payoff. And conceptually, their pollution regimes are somewhat closer to each other, where as you expand that bandwidth, you start getting a lot more heterogeneity. in the countries, in their pollution regimes, and what they're dealing with. So I look, there is a judgment call, and I think one of the challenging things sometimes to come into for students is when there isn't one correct answer to set up your study. There isn't one. It's not black or white. There's one right way or one wrong way to proceed from here. You could very easily construct a set of studies just based on the very high quality studies, just looking at the natural experiments that have been done with a really good causal design, and that would have a lot of value and probably be a smaller set of studies that would be international in scope. Or to, so I would lean in those two directions. One, I would look at the very high value, high quality studies, but it might be difficult to define how those are set up. Or, and I would do that across the world. Or I would stick with looking at North America and Europe. And I think I lean a little more towards North America and Europe. If you're going to plant a flag in some area in this field, I think doing it on North America and Europe is going to be strong. Is just going to be stronger overall. And there can be a reason as well to do that for heterogeneity, not just around air pollution, but also heterogeneity around COVID reporting, detection, testing policies. So that would be my vote, with a close second, followed by just looking at the very high quality studies.
Okay.
But questions, doubts, thoughts, what are you leaning towards on this?
Yeah, I mean, I like the geographic restriction, and I think maybe a separate one, like parallel one, could be done for like other countries, like Asia. Asia has a lot like by itself. And then I have to say too, like within the Europe, I think 40 out of 60 are for Italy. So, I mean, and also,
are they, question, if 40 out of 60 are for Italy, are they using the same data? There's probably quite a bit of overlap in those studies then.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of overlap, but some of them like use a different method, or they use, instead of like some of them are like, I would say like super basic quality, just looking at like region level, like state level, and then like some crude pollution measure. So there's a lot of like a difference in terms of quality. And then some of them look at past pollution, some of them look at present pollution. Some of them, it's like even the same authors, they do a study for like NO2, and then they do a study for like PM 2.5, and then they do a study for like another.
Okay, they're just kind of, just trying to churn out papers, like factory production articles.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, but that still leaves you with some good representation of Europe. Even if 40 are from Italy, you have 63 in there, so that there should be a good set of studies capturing a range of European countries. And 46 from North America is pretty good. That should have good distribution across the US, different US states.
Yes.
So no, I like it. I think, in fact, you could do multiple studies, depends on how much enthusiasm you have. But yeah, I would lean towards doing the first Prospero registration with a set of North American and European studies.
Okay. And then, yeah, and then in terms of, I guess another thing I was thinking of is like in terms of outcomes, like I would say like, because then like the number of cases or the incidents that you'll get is going to depend on like the testing, and also the deaths are like going to be based on like how good data is reported. That's probably another reason why it's better to focus on like Europe and North America, because they might have more similar.
Exactly. So similarity, and you've got the pollution regime, but also then the COVID testing regime.
Yeah.
So that will facilitate comparisons.
And then it might be also another reason why like deaths or mortality might be a more robust outcome than like incidence or prevalence.
Yeah, I mean, there are also problems across national comparisons of mortality, given the classifications. But yes, you probably would still want to look at COVID incidence, prevalence, and mortality as outcomes. But still, I think you have enough to register with Prospero. Do you have any? Do you feel confident after this you can go start that registration?
Yes, yeah, for me for sure, we're just like getting the approval on like the scope and
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is definitely moving a good direction. And it looks like you sent me also a document that you've already started some of the extraction as well in the background. That
yes.
let me just pull that up from you too.
Although,
Right
yeah,
here.
I mean, I was like, I didn't have to start. I started anyway. I think with Prospero, like I had to, they recommend not to start it, but
Yeah, it's better not to go too far, but that's okay. So I'm just looking here at your extraction. So this is looking pretty good. I like what you've done here. Massive amount of literature has been produced. I would put the, okay, so you got the country. Good. So this is all, are these all the European ones?
yeah, so those are the European ones. And then, yeah, I do country and I also do like a unit of analysis because like sometimes within a country, it's like either a region or province or like the local authority.
Let me just sort this by the country. Let's I like the way you've set this up. Sort A to Z. Okay, here we go. Country. Just wanted to see if within Italy, for example, you're getting much heterogeneity. Vienna districts. Just looking across here. So a lot of Italy is just these are all relatively the same study. Well, PM 2.5, but it looks like different dates. A lot from Lombardy. Yeah, it looks like the same set of authors are kind of appearing here. COVID outcome details. We've got the model. This is very detailed. You've done a really nice job here. This is very detailed. Association. So you're reporting here. Good. Okay, and you've already started to disaggregate for studies that had multiple. Yeah, you could just put all the results. I like that you're putting the controls and the design. I think you want to exactly design. There's very few quasi-experimental. Very few from the look of it. So that looks like you wouldn't even have enough really to limit it to quasi-experimental designs.
Yeah, I have a quick question. If,
Yeah.
For like when I report the results, I don't know how much detail to go into. Like, I mean, I like now started to go into more detail, but like, for example, for each pollutant, but like, should I be like copying and pasting all the coefficients as well and like the R squared and
that's more detail than
just
you'll need.
direction?
I think you just want to get the main, because you're not doing a meta analysis. But here, I think if you can get some magnitude, like this is nice to include here. This is a nice, so you definitely want to have at least the significance and the direction. And you definitely want to have the magnitude.
Okay, yeah, and also like because some of them also like they do like within one study they do like first they do like without covariates and they add covariates and then
I would put their best estimate. So probably
the main one, the like last one.
Their best one is probably their adjusted estimate is going to be your best estimate
Okay.
to report if you can only pick one. But this is good. Yeah, this is what you want. You might not report all this, so it's okay to have a long results section here, and then you might create a short conclusion, like you saw that we did in Cornelia's analysis. That we had the main conclusions and all its messiness, and then boil it down to a short results column, just for you to keep track. I think that's really useful. And then I like the way you're setting this up. The designs, there's a lot of heterogeneity. So I think you might want to add another block to say if it used individual level data. Another thing is the temporality. You probably want to put what the base, you probably want a category for the base period or the reference period was, right? So you have the period, which is good, but some of them use different reference periods, and that can be a source of heterogeneity as well. So you might want to add that in. But these are just some refinements we can do as we get to the analysis of the data. I think you're doing a great job, Ireri. Really detailed work. The Prisma diagram's looking great. This extraction looks great for publishing. This is definitely going to give some nice insights and plant a nice flag for you in the literature with your name on it. So basically keep going. Let me know how I can help with registering Prospero.
Okay, I have just two quick questions in terms of inclusion. So should I include case studies? I didn't include them because some of the other reviews excluded like case reports or some or like but I think case studies in this sense, the ones that I'm wondering about include like a whole country. They say the case study of Italy, but it's still like very similar to these other ones that I've already looked
If
at.
it
So
has, if it's a case study and includes these quantitative analyses, then that's worth it. That's worth
okay, so I
including.
should keep them. Okay,
Yeah.
and
If you can summarize it, that there's a method and results and so forth, and I mean, it could be reported as a quantitative case study of a single country like Italy. That's fine.
okay, and there's like a couple that are not published. Should I include them or not?
I would exclude those.
Exclude. And then finally, there's like one that my search strategy didn't get, and but that I think I should include. It's like one that I presented in our class, and it's a quasi-experimental one.
Okay.
And should I just include it in like in the
Yeah,
here on the
then you've
right?
got this other method approach. So put it in through that strategy.
Okay.
But it was published. That
Yes,
article.
it was published, and yeah, it's just then the keywords their keywords were pollution and not air pollution, even though like the
Okay.
study was about air pollution, and I was really surprised that PubMed didn't get it.
Strange.
But
Okay, check that because you want to make sure you didn't miss any other good things. But
yeah,
yeah,
I actually I reran the search again, and then actually like downloaded the ones that including just pollution, not air pollution, because I thought it was too broad. And then it's going to be like not just that one. I think it's going to be 7 more that I will include.
okay. Yeah, good. If you know those and put these via other methods, you could do Google Scholar or others. That's what this block is really for.